The room was loud. Music was playing. Laughter was everywhere. Tonya stood near the back wall, holding her glass of juice, watching Derek walk to the center of the room. Her heart was calm. She had dressed nicely tonight. Her hair was perfect. She had even rehearsed what she would say if he looked her way. Because, deep down, she believed tonight was about her. She watched Derek smile at the crowd. She watched him clear his throat. She watched him reach into his pocket. And then, everything stopped making sense. He pulled out a small black box. Tonya's smile slowly disappeared. He got down on one knee. Tonya's hand started shaking. The woman in front of him covered her mouth. Tears ran down her face. She nodded before he even finished speaking. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. The room exploded. People screamed, people clapped, people jumped. Tonya's glass fell from her hand and shattered on the floor. Nobody noticed. Nobody except Derek. He looked up from across the room, directly at her. His face was calm. No anger, no satisfaction, just peace. And in that quiet moment, he said 4 words that cut through all the noise.
You said we were just friends, Tonya.
Silence crashed over her like cold water. Her throat tightened. Her eyes burned. Around her, everyone was celebrating the happiest moment of another woman's life. And Tonya was standing alone in the middle of it all, realizing she had made the biggest mistake of her life. The man she rejected for years had just proposed to another woman, and Tonya was about to realize she had lost everything. 3 years earlier, Tonya and Lizzie were sisters. They came from a comfortable family, well-dressed, well-spoken, always together. They moved through the university halls like the world was built for them, and honestly, most people believed it was. Tonya was the fire between them, loud when she needed to be, charming when she wanted to be. She felt things deeply and loved harder than she would ever admit. She was the kind of girl who lit up a room just by walking in. Lizzie was different, quieter, more patient. She watched people carefully before she spoke, and when she finally spoke, it was almost always the truth, even when the truth was painful. They were in their 3rd year when the new transfer student arrived. Nobody really paid attention at first. He sat in the back of the lecture hall. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't try to impress anyone. He just sat down, opened his notebook, and listened. His name was Derek. And the first time Tonya noticed him, she was embarrassed for him. His clothes were clean, but the color combination was odd. His shoes were good, but very dusty. When he spoke in class, his accent carried the weight of a village upbringing, and some students pressed their lips together to stop from smiling. He was awkward in the way that made people uncomfortable. Too serious, too quiet. He didn't pay attention to his looks. He didn't know the latest songs or the popular slang. He didn't laugh at the right moments. Tonya told Lizzie one evening, "That new guy, I feel bad for him." Lizzie said nothing. She just watched. But here is what Tonya missed in those early weeks. Here is what most people missed. Derek was brilliant. Not in a showy way, in a quiet way. The kind of brilliance that only reveals itself when everything becomes difficult. And in their department, things became very difficult.
The assignment nearly broke Tonya. She had been staring at the same problem for 3 hours. She had called 2 classmates. Neither could help. She was close to giving up when Derek walked past, noticed her frustration, and sat down without being asked. He didn't make her feel stupid. He didn't rush her. He explained everything slowly, made her repeat the steps herself until she understood, then gathered his things and left. He didn't ask for anything. That night, Tonya told Lizzie something shifted in her. "He's actually really smart," she said. Lizzie smiled. I know. And that was how their friendship began. Quietly, with one act of kindness that cost him nothing but meant everything. The problem was that Derek didn't know how to love in a small way. As the months passed, he began noticing things about Tonya that even she didn't notice about herself. He noticed the snacks she always reached for when she was nervous. He noticed the way she went quiet when she was hiding pain. He noticed when she skipped meals during exam weeks. And he started showing up. Not with grand gestures, but with small, consistent ones. Food appeared on her desk during exam periods. Her assignments were cross-checked before she submitted them. When late lectures ran past 9 at night, Derek was always nearby to walk back with her. Little things, thoughtful things, things that whispered, "I see you," without ever saying it out loud. Tonya felt the warmth of it. She leaned into his friendship like a warm blanket on a cold night. She just never asked herself why it felt so good. Lizzie watched all of it and she began to worry. Then one quiet afternoon between lectures, Derek told her the truth. He didn't make his speech. He just said it simply, the way he said most things. That he liked her, that he had liked her for a while, that he understood if she didn't feel the same, but he needed her to know. Tonya felt the weight of it, and she turned him down gently. Not because he was struggling financially, not because he came from a small town. She told Lizzie privately that same evening, "He's genuinely a good person, but his dress sense embarrasses me. His accent is too heavy. He doesn't carry himself with confidence. I just can't picture us together." Lizzie was quiet for a long moment. "So, you'll keep everything he gives you, but not give him a chance?" Tonya said, "I'm not forcing him to do any of it." Lizzie didn't reply, but something in her expression changed. And then Sean arrived. If Derek was everything hidden and sincere, Sean was everything loud and visible. He wore his clothes like he knew exactly how they looked on him. He walked into rooms and conversations shifted. Girls laughed louder around him. Boys wanted to be near him. He was magnetic in the way that made you forget to think clearly. The first time he spoke to Tonya, she already knew she would say yes before he even asked the question. Derek noticed. He said nothing. He just kept stepping back and kept being exactly who he was, even while something broke quietly inside him. He still helped her when she struggled. He still showed up when she called, because whatever she thought of him, his feelings were real. And real feelings don't switch off because they aren't returned. His friend Timothy pulled him aside one evening. "Derek, you're doing too much for a girl who doesn't choose you." Derek was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "What I have for her is genuine. No matter what, I'll keep showing up. I can't help it." Timothy shook his head, but there was something in Derek's answer that was almost too painful to argue with. Sean, meanwhile, was showing Tonya exactly who he was. She just refused to read the signs. He cancelled plans. He went quiet for days, then reappeared with a smile and an excuse. He borrowed money without dates. Bills became Tonya's responsibility without discussion. He would invite Tonya for a date and make her pay. And when she tried to bring up her feelings, he shifted the conversation in ways that left her confused and apologizing for something she hadn't done wrong. But Tonya told herself stories. "He's just stressed. Final year is hard on everyone. We're still trying to get to know each other better." Lizzie couldn't take it anymore. She sat across from Tonya one evening and chose her words carefully. "Sean has everything you said you wanted, but what does he actually do for you?" Tonya started to answer. Lizzie cut her off softly. "Derek has everything you said you wanted, but what does he actually do for you?" Tonya started to answer. Lizzie cut her off softly. "Everything wrong with Derek can be fixed, Tonya. Clothes can change, accents soften, confidence grows, but character is the hardest thing to fix. And Sean's character is showing you exactly who he is." Tonya looked away. She wasn't ready to hear it. Not yet.
Final year arrived like a storm. Project work, presentations, deadlines stacked on top of each other. Tonya was drowning. She called Sean 3 times one night. He answered on the 4th call, sounded distracted, and promised to help tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. Without a word to anyone, Derek started showing up. He stayed up through nights helping her organize her research. He typed while she dictated. He printed documents when her printer failed. He rehearsed her presentation lines with her until she could deliver them without shaking. He arranged everything in the order it needed to be. He didn't tell her it was hard. He didn't tell her he was tired. The morning of her presentation, Tonya walked into that hall and performed beautifully, confidently. Her supervisor praised her. Her classmates complimented her. She was surrounded by people congratulating her. And in that moment, when someone asked her who helped her prepare, Tonya smiled and said it was her boyfriend. Even though she was right that Sean was her boyfriend, he was the one everyone attributed the praise to, and she never corrected them. She was elated about it, despite knowing the truth. From across the room, Derek heard it. He smiled, quietly, the way people smile when they're trying not to show that something just broke inside them. Lizzie saw it. She pressed her hand to her mouth. Nobody else noticed. Nobody needed to. Tonya's birthday should have been a turning point. She dressed up. She planned. She told herself Sean would make it special. After everything, after all the waiting and forgiving, surely this time he would come through. He sent a message. Network issues. I'll make it up to you, I promise. He showed up 2 hours late, empty-handed, unbothered. Tonya sat at her own birthday table, trying not to cry. Then the door opened. Derek walked in holding a bag. He placed it on the table in front of her without ceremony. No speech, no performance. She opened it slowly. The exact iPhone she had mentioned once, casually, months ago. She hadn't even remembered saying it, but he had remembered. He had saved for it. He had brought it tonight. The table went quiet. Sean stared at the phone. Something dark moved across his face. Tonya's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Derek and couldn't find the right words. He just smiled and said, "Happy birthday, Tonya." Then he stepped back and let Sean take the seat beside her, because that was the kind of man Derek was. And still, Tonya stayed with Sean. Lizzie stood up from the table and walked to the bathroom. She needed a moment alone because she was furious in a way she couldn't show. A week later, Lizzie sat Tonya down. No more gentle words, no more patience. "You need to stop," she said. "What you are doing to Derek is not friendship. You are collecting from him, Tonya, his time, his energy, his care, and you are giving him nothing except the privilege of watching you choose someone else." Tonya raised her voice. "He knows we're just friends." Lizzie didn't blink. "You know it's more than friendship to him, and you know it every time you call him, every time you need something." She paused. "You are rejecting a man because of things that can be improved on." That line landed somewhere deep. Tonya felt it, but she pushed it down and walked away. 3 weeks later, she pushed it even further down. She was sitting with a group of friends when one of them laughed and said, "Tonya, imagine if Derek became polished, good English, designer clothes, rich. Would you have dated him?" Tonya laughed, carelessly, easily. "Maybe in another life," she said. The group laughed. Nobody noticed the figure standing just outside the doorway. Derek had heard every word. He stood there for a moment, then he turned and walked away. That evening, something in him changed, not loudly, not with anger, but quietly and permanently, like a door closing in a house that has been empty for a long time. He made a decision. He let go. Lizzie's closest friend had been watching Derek for a while. Not in the way people watch someone they want to judge, in the way people watch someone they want to understand. She saw what others overlooked. She saw a man who was kind without needing recognition. She saw someone who showed up without being asked. She saw intelligence behind the awkward sentences and genuine warmth behind the quiet exterior. One afternoon, when Derek apologized to her for something small, embarrassed about how he had phrased it, she stopped him. "Clothes can change," she told him. "A good heart is rare. Don't apologize for yours." Derek looked at her for a long moment, and something inside him opened. It happened slowly, the way all real things happen. She helped him choose clothes that fit properly. She encouraged him to speak more, correct himself without shame, keep going when he stumbled. She never mocked him. She never made him feel like a project. She made him feel like a man who already had value and was simply growing into more of it. She took him on dates, to events, proudly building his confidence to mingle. Derek started standing differently, speaking more confidently, smiling more easily. He was still himself, but the parts of himself that had been buried under years of embarrassment began to surface. And he fell in love, the way he had always loved, completely, quietly, with every piece of himself. When Derek announced he was throwing a birthday party, and that the birthday party was to appreciate and celebrate the most important person in his life, Tonya felt something she hadn't expected: excitement. She told herself it was just happiness for a friend, but she spent 2 hours getting dressed. She changed outfits 3 times. She arrived early and positioned herself where he would easily see her. She had spent years believing she held the power in their connection. She believed that if she walked in looking beautiful, something in Derek would crack open and remind him who she had always wanted. She had no idea what was about to happen. The room was warm and full. Music played softly. Derek stood at the front and asked for decorum. There was a time, he began slowly, when I loved someone so much that I forgot my own value. I kept showing up. I kept giving. I kept hoping. The room was completely still. But I learned something. You cannot pour forever into a place that was never meant to hold you. Tonya's breath caught. Someone came into my life and appreciated me exactly as I was. She didn't ask me to change to earn her love. She loved me first, and we grew together. He turned. He called her name. Gabriella. She walked forward, eyes bright, smile trembling. Derek reached into his pocket. The black box opened. Will you marry me? Yes, 1,000,000 times yes. The room exploded, and Tonya's world collapsed in total silence. She stood frozen while everyone around her celebrated. The music felt too loud. The laughter felt cruel. She watched Derek hold the woman's hand and accept congratulations from people who had no idea what Tonya was feeling in that moment. She had spent 3 years believing she had control, that Derek would always be there, that his love was a door she could walk through whenever she finally decided she was ready. She didn't know the door had closed. She reached for her phone. She needed Sean. She drove to his apartment with shaking hands. The door was slightly open. She pushed it, and she found him. Not alone. Another woman, comfortable and unbothered, as if this was normal, as if this was simply Tuesday. Sean looked up. He didn't panic. He didn't apologize. He just looked at her the way you look at someone who has arrived unexpectedly and inconveniently. Tonya, he said flatly, I told you to call before. She closed the door. She walked back to her car and sat in the driver's seat and didn't move for a long time. The man she had chosen had never truly seen her. The man who had truly seen her now belonged to someone else. Both realizations arrived at exactly the same time, and the weight of them together was something she had no words for. Lizzie came. She always came. She sat beside Tonya in the car and didn't say, I told you so. She didn't need to. She just sat there until Tonya stopped shaking enough to speak. When she finally did, Lizzie gave her the truth one final time, not with cruelty, with the particular sadness of a sister who had watched something painful unfold too slowly to stop. You are looking for a finished product, Lizzie said, quietly, and another woman saw potential. Tonya stared at the dashboard. Everything you rejected in Derek could have been improved. The clothes, the accent, the confidence, all of it was changeable. But his loyalty, his kindness, the peace he brought, that is rare, Tonya. That is the thing people spend their whole lives searching for.
She paused. Her voice dropped even lower. I need to tell you something I've never said before. If you weren't my sister, I would have thought for him myself. I love him, not as a crush, as the example of what a real man looks like. And I watched you waste it, and I couldn't say anything because you were my blood. Tonya turned to look at her sister. Lizzie's eyes were wet. He was right there, Tonya,
and you let him go. The tears finally came. Not soft ones, the kind that come from somewhere deep. The kind that carry years of things you never let yourself feel until it was too late. The wedding was on a Saturday in November. Tonya came alone. She sat in the back row. She wore something simple and kept her sunglasses on even after she stepped inside. She watched Derek stand at the altar. His suit was perfect. His posture was steady. He looked like a man who had found solid ground. She watched his bride walk toward him. The joy on her face was pure and uncomplicated. The joy of a woman who had loved without holding back and was now receiving everything she deserved. Derek smiled when he saw her. The kind of smile Tonya had seen on his face exactly once before, the day he had told her he loved her. The officiant spoke, vows were exchanged, rings were placed. When they kissed, the room erupted. Tonya pressed her hand against her mouth. She stayed until the end. Then she walked out alone, got into her car, and sat in the parking lot while people laughed and took photographs and celebrated the beginning of something beautiful. She had been offered that beginning once. She called it friendship. And some lessons, the ones that truly change you, only arrive after you have already paid the highest price. The man she rejected didn't chase her. He didn't beg. He didn't become bitter. He simply became everything he always was. And he gave that to someone who recognized it. Thanks for listening and watching. Subscribe for more stories like, and let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Did you think Lizzie should have gone for Derek regardless, instead of keeping quiet all this while?